All right, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Albertson. I am the Deputy Director here at the Center for Global Security Research at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Thank you for taking the time out of your afternoon to join us. Thank you to the speaker for getting up early in the morning to join us. Today's CGSR lecture is with Dr. Riqiang Wu, who is Professor of International Relations at Tsinghua University in China. And his talk is based around a recent international security article he did called Keeping Pace with the Times, China's Arms Control Tradition, New Challenges, and Nuclear Learning. I just highlight for the group that Dr. Wu was here on site with us at CGSR in 2019, where he gave a lecture titled The Merits of Uncertainty, where he talked a little bit about nuclear policy, missile defense, arms control policy, a lot of similar themes to what he's going to be talking about today. So if you are interested in this talk and want a little bit of historical comparison from a previous lecture, you can find his 2019 talk on the CGSR website or on YouTube just by searching for his name in CGSR. Why are we having this talk today? Why is this a particularly topical talk? This idea about sort of China joining the U.S. and Russia in doing strategic arms control is something that is in the news a lot, particularly as the expiration of the New START treaty looms in February 2026. Everyone has wanted to get China into this conversation. U.S. interlocutors spent a lot of time trying to convince Chinese interlocutors to join this conversation, but Chinese officials have a very different way of seeing the world. They have a very different way of seeing sort of U.S.-Russian arms control, its purpose, its goals, its designs. Dr. Wu has written about this extensively. And I think, always of value is hearing sort of the Chinese perspective on all of this, which is, I think, unique to the lab audience and something you really only get to hear very rarely, even in sort of U.S. official or U.S. Track 2 worlds where you get to go and participate in these Track 2 conversations. And I was looking on LinkedIn today where a number of very senior former U.S. arms control and non-proliferation officials were in Shanghai recently for a dialogue on these issues. So the fact that we get a perspective into this, I think, is fantastic. And sort of, I very much appreciate Dr. Wu taking the time to join us today. A little bit about the speaker. He is a professor of international relations at Tsinghua University in China. His research combines political and technical approaches, focusing on nuclear arms control, space security, emerging technologies. Previously, he taught at Renmin University of China and worked at the China Aerospace Science and Industrial Corporation as a missile engineer. He held visiting fellowships at Harvard University, Dartmouth College, Stanford, and MIT. And he got his PhD in political science from Tsinghua University and an MSc and a BE, both from the Harbin Institute of Technology. Ground rules for those of you first time to the CGSR lecture circuit. The speaker's going to talk for about 45 minutes and go through his slides. And then we're going to go into the question and answer portion. But at any point in the conversation where you have a question, or you have a comment you want to make at the end, feel free to raise your hand electronically using the function in LinkedIn. Feel free to type your question into the chat at the bottom of the WebEx function. And that way, as soon as Dr. Wu finishes his remarks, we can go right into the conversation. So with that, once again, Dr. Wu, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to be with us, and very much look forward to the presentation.
Thank you, Miko. Thank you for the introduction. It's my great pleasure to join the lecture series again. As Miko said, my topic is about China's arms control and arms control tradition and nuclear learning, how to update it. So here's my plan. So first look about China's arms control tradition and the new challenges in China-US strategic stability, and finally nuclear learning. So first, why this topic? Miko just said the issue of China joining nuclear arms control system is a hot topic. So people asking why not China join the nuclear arms control system? So by nuclear arms control, there are two kinds of arms control. One is for limiting the numbers. So because China's nuclear arsenal is still much smaller than U.S. and Russia, so it doesn't make sense for China to join those treaties that limits numbers. So, and people understand that. This is the first type. For the second type, about the transparency and the risk reduction, actually this part cause the confusions, because people believe that risk reduction is good for all nuclear powers. So it's confusing that why China not so much interested in risk reduction. So some people even believe that China must have a evil, deliberate plan behind this reluctance for risk reduction. My research will answer this question. So why China is not interested in risk reduction? Also, second trigger of my research is China's response to U.S. proposal for stop destructive asset test. The first reaction from China's arms control community is that very much similar as China's reaction to nuclear test ban process. So basically, our lessons learned is that you conducted enough tests. Now you come to restrict us. So it's a surprise to me, because I believe that the asset test moratorium is totally different from the CTBT process. But our first reaction is that, okay, you conduct enough. That means you conducted enough. So that means that we have a strong arms control tradition. That tradition shaped by our nuclear history, but that tradition still have strong influence in today's China's nuclear community. So here's my summary of China's arms control tradition. So have three pillars. The first one is we emphasize safeguarding our national defense modernization. This is the first pillar. Second one is we emphasize capability development. We are not so interested in reassurance or risk reduction. The third one is transparency is not so good. So I will go through these three pillars one by one. As I said, China's arms control tradition has strongly influenced by China's history, especially the nuclear test ban process. In 1963, when U.S. Soviet Union and the UK negotiating the PTBT, at that time China was preparing its very first nuclear test in atmosphere. So naturally, the PTBT will have will how to say, prevent China from doing that test. So the public understanding, public declaration of PTBT is to protect the environment, but actually the part of the PTBT purpose is to prevent China and Germany from getting its own nuclear weapons. So the non-proliferation is also an important issue for PTBT. So Soviet Union was supposed to persuade China to join PTBT, and the U.S. would bring Germany in. So, China-Soviet relationship was not so good, so that China didn't join. And China's nuclear physicists play a very important role in this process. This is Zhu Guangya, who was one of the technical leaders of China's nuclear program, and later he oversight China's nuclear weapon development and the nuclear arms control policy for several decades. He organized a group and discussed the issue and prepare a report to the top leader. So the basic conclusion is that the purpose of PTBT is just to kill China's nuclear program. So, and the PTBT will have zero influence on U.S. or Soviet Union's nuclear program. So basically, the purpose of PTBT is to restrict our nuclear program and keep their own programs. After the PTBT, Soviet Union and the U.S. proposed a lot of nuclear test ban proposals, and this is China's very Vice Foreign Minister Qiu Guanhua said in the UN 1972. He said, actually, this is our common understanding of U.S. Soviet Union nuclear test ban proposal. So when you guys had tested enough in the atmosphere, you propose a proposal ban on nuclear test. And now, if you conducted enough for all types of nuclear testing, you probably will ban all kind of nuclear testing. This is the major conclusion of the Deng Jianxian Yumin report. Deng Jianxian Yumin, both of them are very important nuclear physicists in China's nuclear program. This is in 1986, both of them prepared a report for the top leader, and they were afraid that if U.S. and the Soviet Union conducted enough nuclear tests for all types of nuclear tests, they might decide to ban all nuclear testing. So if China had not finished all necessary nuclear testing, China will face very high pressure. So they propose that we should accelerate our nuclear testing programs, so that we call it a decade of acceleration. So, very quickly, actually, the Cold War ended and the CTBT negotiations started, and China joined the negotiation, and China continued to conduct necessary nuclear tests. And finally, in 1996, China finished all necessary tests and signed the CTBT. So in total, United States conducted more than 1,000 nuclear tests, and for China, 45. So naturally, there is a technical gap. So CTBT has the effect of locking that technical gap between China and the United States. So this is our understanding. So the perception of CTBT. So the great superpowers use arms control as a tool to restrict our capability. This is the first pillar of our arms control tradition. So you guys want to restrict our nuclear capability. So naturally, our purpose of our arms control policy is to protect our national defense modernization. Now move to the second pillar. China is not so much interested in risk reduction and focus on capability development. So U.S. risk reduction is from the classical arms control based on U.S. Soviet Union experience. So this is the U.S. and Soviet Union situation. So even in this situation, even both sides do not want to kill each other. But if I believe you are going to kill me, you are going to shoot first, then I need to shoot first. And that makes you feel that you need to shoot first. So this kind of Tom Shannon called it reciprocal fear of surprise attacks. Therefore, in this situation, the most important goal is to reduce the risk. So is a reassurance. So this is so important for the superpowers. And because we developed the classical arms control based U.S. Soviet experience, and so people take it for granted that everything learned from U.S. Soviet experience should necessarily apply to China, to everybody. That's why when they say China is not so much interested in risk reduction, and they were surprised. Actually, I would argue China not so much interested in risk reduction because China's situation for China is totally different from superpowers. This is China. So if you were the weak side in an asymmetric structure, so the number one objective definitely is not risk reduction. Definitely, you want to build up your capability. You want to build your nuclear retaliatory capability, and to build the basic minimum strategic stability. So after that, so in this situation, China would not be interested in risk reduction. So until China has some minimum retaliatory capability and China is confident about its retaliatory capability, then risk reduction would become an interest for China. This is the second pillar. So why we are not so interested in risk reduction, because we were so weak. And also important is that in this situation, the risk of unnecessary nuclear war is very high because of the mechanism of reciprocal fear of surprise attack. In this situation, the risk is not high because the weak side definitely has no interest to shoot first, and the strong side knew that very, very well. So there's no reciprocal fear. So the risk is not so high. Also, the transparency, China was very weak, and this international situation is not very tough for China, and so China just classify everything related to nuclear and military issues. So, and the U.S. try to penetrate that secrecy. So, this is the tradition. So, we classify everything. So this is the way to understand our transparency policy. The traditional logic for China is that because we were so weak, so we cannot so transparent, and you are strong, so you should be more transparent. But I think it is better to understand China's transparency policy from the perspective of tradition. So I have discussed the China's arms control tradition. So now let's move to the new challenges of China's China-U.S. strategic stability. So I like this the framework of three components: the first track stability, crisis stability, arms risk stability. Rather than the traditional, we say that the strategic stability has two components: crisis and arms risk stability. I use this three components framework because this is important for China to put it the first track stability out. So for U.S. Soviet Union, it is first track stability is not so important because you always have that. Both sides always have nuclear retaliatory capability. But for China, first track stability is very important. So by first track stability, I mean purely capability based, just about each other's nuclear retaliatory capability. So if both sides have the capability to retaliate, then we say there's a first track stability is good. Crisis stability will include all the psychological factors like the misunderstanding, misperception, interactions, all that kind of stuff, and the arms race stability. So my general conclusion is that because of China's nuclear modernization, so China's the first strike stability is getting better and better, but at the same time, some of China's nuclear modernization programs caused other countries concern. Therefore, the crisis stability and arms stability is going down. So first, let's look at the first strike stability, the China's capability and modernization. So I think most of you have watched the parade, the latest parade, and China, for the very first time, China demonstrated the triad. So this is the lead-based. It's rumored that this one is for the silos. This is the lead mobile ICBM, the air-launched ballistic missile, and the submarine-launched ballistic missile. This is the first time China say we have a triad. And this is the summary. China have the current the second generation ballistic missile summary. And the Pentagon report said China has already conducted continuous at-sea deterrence patrols. And also the silos, commercial satellite image files, China is building 3 ICBM silo sites. So this is the public source, the number of estimate of China's total arsenal. So current number is last year's Pentagon report. Say China has 600 nuclear warheads, and Pentagon U.S. believe that China will get 700 in 2027, and 1,000 in 2030, and maybe 1,500 in 2035. So this is about China's modernization and build up, and because of this modernization, and I believe China's nuclear retaliatory capability is getting better. So now let's move to the crisis. The crisis stability. First one about some of China's nuclear program caused other countries concerns. It is worried that some of them might trigger unnecessary nuclear risk or inadvertent nuclear war. This is for the FOBs, the fraction, how to say that? Fraction orbital bombardment systems. And it's reported that China conducted FOBs tests. So FOBs is different from the traditional ballistic missiles. FOBs means you deliver a warhead in Earth's orbit, and this warhead could go through the South Pole, and therefore get over U.S. missile defense systems. So all U.S. missile defense radars are targeted in North. FOBs, China government didn't admit that. China, the Foreign Ministry spokesperson say this is not a missile. This is a test of reusable space launch vehicle. So, and some of the U.S. strategists argue concerns that FOBs might be used for leadership decapitation. Basically, the idea is because the early warning time for FOBs system is very short, so suddenly China could change the trajectory and the velocity of warheads and hit Washington D.C. and kill everybody, and the U.S. cannot launch retaliatory capability, retaliation. I have to say I understand this concern, but I have to say this concern is from our perspective is ridiculous. Literally no Chinese believe this is a serious concern. This should be a serious concern, and everybody laughed. Why? Even technically, even we have this program, and we can successfully, technically, we can destroy Washington D.C., kill U.S. president. So what? So U.S. will have another president, and the new president will order nuclear retaliation against China. It doesn't make sense for China to do this kind of stuff. So I believe this is also the most of our Chinese fellow arms controllers believe that FOBs has, even we have that program, FOBs doesn't change anything, doesn't change U.S. retaliatory capability. But I understand that U.S. some of you are really concerned that. The answer, the second program is the loss of warning. So the early warning counter-strike in Chinese, 预警反击. And also the Pentagon report said China has already conducted exercise or loss of warning. We all know that China is building an early warning system. This is a fact. We are building radars, we are building satellites. This is a fact, but we do not know. China didn't say much on the early warning counter-strike. Are we building an early warning counter-strike? I don't know. Of course, for loss of warning is dangerous because of the false alarm could happen. So that could cause accidental nuclear war. United States also doing loss of warning is always U.S. Part of the U.S. doctrine, and in U.S. you don't call it loss of warning, you call it loss under attack. Basically, this is the same logic, same thing. The third concern is the so-called conventional nuclear entanglement. So some of China's nuclear delivery systems could be used for both conventional and nuclear purposes. Therefore, in a conventional war, if this system were attacked, that might generate pressure for the military leaders. So this is the DF-26 missile, and in Chinese news report, actually we say that very, very clearly. Yes, this missile is nuclear conventional dual use, and the soldiers have to be trained to operate both nuclear and conventional factions. I just want to mention that this is, yes, we say that. I just want to mention that, emphasize that conventional nuclear entanglement is in every nuclear powers practice posture. So everybody has that issue. For example, I always in China-U.S. nuclear dialogue, I always mention that to my American colleagues. For example, U.S. strategic bomber could deliver both nuclear and conventional warheads. And also, U.S. early warning satellites, the whole early warning system could be used for both conventional missile defense, for tactical missile defense, and strategic missile defense. So this is an issue for all nuclear powers, not just China. And finally, the arms race stability. You know, for many years, arms race is not an issue between China and the United States. So U.S. is so big, China is so small. So China is just trying to chase, not to race with the United States. So for U.S. nuclear planning, it doesn't matter how many nuclear weapons China have. So as long as U.S. could deter Russia, naturally U.S. could deter China. So China is not a driving factor of U.S. nuclear planning. Russia is the only driving factor. But now the situation has changed. The U.S. said because of China's nuclear buildup, the United States must consider how to deter China and Russia simultaneously. So U.S. might need to reevaluate the size and the composition of U.S. nuclear arsenal. Several important articles, this one from Livermore, from this center, and I'll get the similar conclusion. So my perception is that U.S. strategic community has reached a consensus that U.S. needs to respond to China's nuclear buildup. But how to respond, there's no consensus yet. So before Biden administration left office, and its high-level officials frequently expressed that U.S. need to be ready. Maybe U.S. needs to deploy more nuclear strategic warheads. I mean, upload more strategic warheads, or maybe United States need to build more nuclear weapons, more nuclear warheads. I mean, expand the total arsenal. So the conclusion, return to the beginning, that's that because of our nuclear modernization, our nuclear territorial capability is going up. That's good. But at the same time, the crisis stability and arms race stability are going down. That's bad. So, so I draw this by AI. So this is my message to my Chinese colleagues, that previously both sides are important. The nuclear capability and the reassurance, both of them are important. Previously we were so weak, so it doesn't matter. We are not interested in risk reduction or reassurance. So we just focus on the capability development. But now we are stronger. So, and our nuclear buildup from other countries' perspective is scary. It's understandable. So we need to focus both. So naturally, as our nuclear territorial capability goes up, we need to pay more attention to reassurance and risk reduction and transparency, that kind of stuff. So this is my message to my Chinese colleagues. So let's turn to the nuclear learning. This is about the definition of nuclear learning. So in the political science literature, we believe that learning is more important. So learning is policy adaptation is more frequent, like always happen, but learning is rare. So learning doesn't happen a lot. So learning means you update your core beliefs or something important, like let's say nuclear or nuclear weapons. So adaptation means you update your understanding, perception, or you update your policy means and methods to. So the learning means you update your policy goal. So Joseph and I use the term simple learning and complex learning. So in my research, when I say learning, I mean the update of the core beliefs of the Joseph and I's term, the complex learning. Actually, we just nuclear learning in China's nuclear history happened just once. So after the Cultural Revolution. So before 1978, the core beliefs of China's core beliefs or arms control. China's core beliefs is arms control is a hypocritical scam. So hypocritical scam. So the basic assumption is that you always want to kill us. So why I want to do anything with you? So we need to prepare the war. Always be ready to fight a war. And the general war between socialist and imperialist is inevitable. That is our assumption. So naturally, our policy goal is we do not participate in nuclear arms control at all. So a typical example is that the NPT. So in NPT, China is a nuclear state, but China didn't participate in NPT at that time. So after the Cultural Revolution, so this is our core belief is that the arms control is a means to restrict China. So naturally, our policy goal is to safeguard our national defense modernization. In the future, I hope in the future we could gradually accept the core beliefs as the arms control is a measure to avoid the catastrophe. So to avoid the nuclear war, because you cannot win a nuclear war. Therefore, avoid nuclear war is a common interest for all nuclear powers. So the policy goals would be to try to reassure other side to reduce nuclear risk and avoid arms risk. This is the number one priority. Naturally, the safeguarding national defense modernization will still be a policy goal, but now it became secondary. So this is my understanding. I have to admit this is hypothetical framework because only happened once. I do not have a lot case. So how does China learn? Only the first one, learn through grand strategy changes. I have a case that is because China has had the reform and opening up policy, so we decide. So naturally, because with that grand strategy change, we change our beliefs, core beliefs, or arms control, or nuclear weapons, or all that kind of stuff. So it's a natural change. The second and the third learning mechanism is my theory, but I do not have evidence or have case to prove that. So I believe this is a way to learn. So we can learn from our direct experience. So through our own experience. Also, we can through indirect experience. That means the other countries' experience. U.S. Soviet Union, U.S. Russia, and Russia-Ukraine war. We can learn from that. We can learn that nuclear risk is serious, and we can learn that. Finally, we can learn that avoiding nuclear war is important, is a common interest for everybody. And also, I want to emphasize that different people learn in different paces. So for Chinese civilian researchers, it is easier to accept that idea. But for the military people, it will be more difficult. Also, in the military, people working on officers working on military diplomacy or strategic studies, that group of people is easy to accept the idea. But for people working on weapon planning, they don't have enough experience with exchanges with foreigners. It's relatively more difficult for them to change their beliefs. Now I would talk a little bit how would United States to facilitate China's nuclear learning. So U.S. always complain that we can have dialogues with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Why cannot we have dialogue with China now? So this is my recommendation for U.S. colleagues. Frankly speaking, I'm pessimistic. So the reality is going the opposite way. So first, recommendation is to respect the strategic stability with China or mutual vulnerability with China. So there is why we are not so interested in risk reduction, because we believe our nuclear retaliation is not good enough. So you asked the Chinese military officer, and why don't we want to talk with U.S.? Say the answer is we are not confident. Why are we not? Why we are not confident? Because our capability not good enough. So you ask, when will we be confident? No idea. So it's the confidence is not just about current situation. It's also about the future development. So so my recommendation for U.S. Colleagues is give China confidence. So currently the situation is not so good because mutual vulnerability is a debate. So should the United States accept mutual vulnerability with China is a debate in the United States. Some people believe yes, it's a fact. Mutual vulnerability is a fact, not a policy choice. But some other people believe that no, U.S. should not accept that because and the U.S. should transform the technical superiority into colossal power and develop damage limitation capability in the crisis, so U.S. could coerce China to back down. I would argue if you were a PLA military planner and you saw that kind of debate, naturally you will believe that maybe our nuclear power is not good enough. We need to build more. Regarding the also the currently the U.S. discussion on the Golden Dome really doesn't help. So for many years, U.S. colleagues tried very hard to reassure China that our national missile defense is not about you, it's designed against North Korea. But our response is like, yes, today your missile defense is small, but after you got that technology, you could build a much bigger missile defense. Unfortunately, our concern comes to true. So regarding China-U.S. nuclear dialogues, this is my recommendation. I know this is really hard, and we just resumed the track 1.5 track 1.5 dialogue after the pandemic twice. And my recommendation is, first, number one, be nice. So China has to be persuaded to the dialogues, not be forced, not be humiliated. So during the first Trump administration, this picture was very famous, and this one really doesn't help. If your purpose is to persuade China to update its core beliefs on arms control, this kind of activity is counterproductive. So actually, this one would enhance our current perception that nuclear arms control is a political tool, nothing to do with risk reduction. You just want to humiliate us. So I don't know the second Trump administration what will the policy, but hopefully this kind of stuff that don't happen again. So the second recommendation is be patient. Nuclear learning takes time, but it's takes time. So before the pandemic, U.S. Pentagon cut off the support for the track 1.5 dialogues. The argument is that this dialogue for have conducted many years but didn't became the track 1 dialogues. I understand the logic, but really, it takes time, be patient. The third one is be humble. Be humble, I mean, to maintain strategic stability in an asymmetric nuclear structure is a new challenge for both China and the United States. So U.S. cannot take it for granted that everything we learned from the U.S. Soviet experience would unnecessarily apply to China. So China just accept everything we have learned. This is not true. This is sometimes both of us need to learn how to maintain strategic stability in an asymmetric structure. This is all for the nuclear learning part. Now let's move to the future. A little bit discuss all the future. We know the New START treaty will expire very, very quickly, and Russia has proposed that to observe the limit after the treaty expires. So currently, my understanding is that in the United States, there's a debate going on. Arms control community says, yes, we should accept that proposal and respect that limit even after the treaty expires. But the more hawkish people believe, no, it's time to stop New START. New START is good for Russia and China, not good for United States. And the hawkish people believe U.S. should upload more strategic warheads to counter China's recently built silos and immediately after New START expires. And for now, United States to begin to train how to upload this warhead. Actually, we saw that U.S. conducted the Minuteman III ICBM flight test with 3 warheads. It's interesting because China-U.S. interaction will influence the general arms control system because if the United States believe that it needs to respond to China's nuclear buildup and upload more warheads, that means Russia would follow. So the whole process, disarmament process, will be stopped and reversed. Also, recently, the President Trump's post the order to resume nuclear testing on an equal basis, although we do not know the exact meaning. But the U.S. Secretary of Energy say this is just about subcritical nuclear testing, not a full yield nuclear explosive. But this post did generate concerns in Russia and I'm sure in China. So we need to wait and see. I don't know the influence. So that's all I prepared. We're looking forward to the questions.